Okay, who wants to volunteer to be on camera today?
Oh, dude.
Go out there.
Yeah, you don't have to like, make one. If you
You can do next time. How's that?
dang.
Okay.
If you have a project that you want to do, then yeah, you get more points.
I'll step out there.
I think you can still get an A if you're just working on other people.
But yeah, you sit there, Mr. J.
You just have to do it a lot
Now,
though.
Mr. J, and your film was very controversial. How does that scene feel about
For
it?
some reason,
Your scene was
I
very
still haven't
controversial.
gotten over this
How
like
do you
fear
respond to
of
that?
actually making something.
I don't agree.
Not too much on Jake.
Oh, whoa.
Wait,
Like
Jake,
making something that's
freelance
showing
stuff?
people.
No, I need to start
Yeah.
freelancing though.
Do you want to do freelance stuff?
Maybe, yeah.
The answer is yes.
Yes, I do.
So the gym that I work at, right, my Muay Thai gym,
I know,
we're
like,
gonna
I
start
don't know
making
what to
videos, and I'm trying to get a team to actually start producing it. So,
I have
it's
a,
like,
When you all planning on starting?
I have a, I
That's-
have a potential
it's more is get the team,
freelance gig.
lay out an idea,
But this
then we
one
start
girl,
setting up dates.
Okay.
She,
No, that's what
she,
I'd love to help out.
she's
So
doing a
if you
birthday
need help,
party, but she wants people to
go
have
ahead.
several jobs.
Yeah.
I told her, well,
I
I'm
just
not a
heard you said
camera
birthday
operator.
now.
You want me to like film
I
and
got
stuff?
you. Like,
and
yeah,
stuff?
like, good.
So you getting paid for that.
Like this,
Yeah.
does this work?
So this is the freelance opportunity that I can do.
There we go.
Wait, what?
We're not old anymore. We get technology.
You didn't know that?
Technology
How did you
now.
do that?
You just
Do
put
what?
it,
Features now.
Share contact information?
you just
Yeah.
put it
No.
together.
I mean, we've already.
They're the
Don't-
ones when you
I've
do
already
is
got your
share.
number in my phone.
Think so. Okay.
Oh, my
All right, let's get
Take
started.
your turn.
Again, the more times you get up out of your chair and come handle stuff, the more you're going to learn today.
Yep.
There you go.
Okay, I'm starting. So, hello. Thank you. Last time, we covered intensity. How bright is the light? How bright does the light look to the camera? How do we control how bright it is? We talked about contrast, the relative intensity between a key light and a fill light, or between the bright areas of your image and the dark areas of your image. We talked about quality, how to soften the edges of shadows. How do we soften the edges of shadows? Hmm?
Like, diffuse.
Yes, but there's actually a better way to phrase that. Everyone says diffuse, and diffuse is correct, but what are we really doing?
You're reducing, right?
No. I heard
Making it bigger?
making it bigger. The bigger the source of light is, the softer the shadows will be. Okay? It's all about size. I can put 20 layers of 12 by 12 diffusion on any of these lights, and it barely softens them. Layering diffusion on top of diffusion has no effect whatsoever. You're going to see people do this all the time, and it's absolute nonsense. Okay. Jake's looking a little soft in general. Okay. All right. That brings us now to direction and angle. And this is going to require someone to help Nathan set up for us one of these Amaran light sets with batteries on a light stand. Who wants to help him? These are a little complicated. Let's bring it on out here so people can see what we're doing with it.
I should have listened to lessons.
Do we have light stands?
We only had those stands.
Alright,
So I can go get one.
Yeah, go get a light stand. It's gonna be a lot easier for this. I grabbed 2 or 3.
Alright.
All right, so when we take this out, we've got to figure out how to connect it to a light stand. And with these, it's kind of complicated. So we go into here, and we find one of these pins. And that pin needs to screw into there. Now you want to check and make sure that it's stable, because sometimes these things have got stripped screws on them. And then we're going to take this, and this needs to go under there. Doesn't matter which side, I don't really think. Yep, slid all the way down, tighten it up. And this is what's going to go on our light stand. Now, we have to hope, as I asked, that we have batteries in here that are charged. Oh, there's one, we need 2. And these lights won't run with just one battery. So of course, there's only one battery in the kit.
Don't just,
Run down to the cage and ask for more batteries. Would that work?
Yeah, Nathan's already down there. Let's see
Maybe
if I
he
can-
saw that there was just one.
yeah, I got my light kit for the conversation and it said no batteries.
Okay.
So I didn't need it.
And once again, we grind to a halt. Okay. Just while we're waiting on stuff, let me give you an idea of what we're going to do.
You do like a media scene, you watch videos from the
I created it.
If we have a subject,
You did it.
like Jake, and we have a camera looking at Jake, Jake is kind of looking this way, we can go around and move our key light into various positions in a circle around Jake. And every one of those positions is going to give us a different designated lighting setup. Okay? We're going to start here. And that is going to be butterfly or paramount lighting. We're going to move around over to here. I'm forgetting my lighting setups. Loop. This is going to be loop. We're going to move over to here. And this is going to be Rembrandt. We're going to move over to here. And it's going to be side. We're going to move back to here, and it's going to be rim, and we're going to come back over here, and it's going to be back. And then as we come around, we're going to have rim light again. We're going to have split light again. We're going to have Rembrandt lighting again. And we are going to have loop lighting again, and when we come all the way around, we are right, God, I hate that as bad. We are right back into butterfly. Okay, now, do the batteries work would be the next one.
Yes. It just turned on.
Okay, all right.
I don't want to do it.
That's okay. Now, two things are happening here that I need you to watch and pay attention to. We are starting out on this side of Jake. When we place the key light on this side of Jake, we are lighting the short side of his face. Notice that we can see one of his ears and we can't see the other. The narrower side of his face is the side that we are lighting. This may seem counterintuitive. You may think, well, there's more real estate on the other side of his face, shouldn't we light that? 90% of every lighting setup you see will be short side lighting. It emphasizes the shadows, that emphasizes the depth. Right? But we're going to look at all of it. When we get around there, we're going to be doing broadside lighting, where the key light is on the side of his face we see the most of, where we see his ear. Okay? So I'm going to bring that over here. We're not going to put a sandbag on it right now, because I'm going to be holding it the entire time. All right.
This?
Yes, just drop it down. Okay. Oh, this is one of those that doesn't lock.
Oh, that's great.
There's another.
I love equipment checkout.
Is there another light stand? Let's set it up.
Great job, equipment.
You can't blame equipment checkout. They're not
That
the
is
ones
true.
that use them.
That is true. That is
Can't pick the damn thing up.
good job, MTSU.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of us.
Now, it does not feel like it's all the way down. And this one is also sliding. Okay? That is a really bent pin. Okay.
That's too bad.
Let me take that one back. This one's worse. This one's completely broken. I think. That whole pin's just kind of coming out. How many light stands does it take to set up one light? That's an old joke.
Maybe?
This is
That was
number.
that was the second one.
This is the third one. That one won't
That's
lock.
the second one? Okay.
Yeah, the first one wouldn't lock. That one, the top is broken.
Okay.
Whoa.
Ooh, this one's shiny. It must be okay.
Don't say that.
This is unbelievable. None of them will lock. What has somebody done to, I'll tell you what someone's done to these, so you know. Someone has forced them up and down while they were still locked. So the locks are now broken on all of them. Fuck. Damn, they're strong. Okay, let's see if we can get it high enough. Well, actually,
Let's see if I can get through.
Oh, this second? Yeah.
I will say, like the newer lights, I've had no issues with in terms of like light stands, and it pretty much does the same thing as this. If you guys are looking for like another,
I'm scared to use lights in general.
it's not.
Like, is this shit even gonna work?
Okay. This will go up.
probably like a port to the side. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So
I'm not okay.
Okay. That's going to be stable enough. It's not quite as high as I want it, but it'll be stable enough. Okay. Let's tilt this a bit. This connection does allow you to tilt the light, which is useful. That's good.
I don't know if it's gonna work.
do we fire watch on that?
No, because I can't use it.
You can
It
always
won't-
just,
it won't hold the light.
you can always just tape it.
Oh,
It won't hold the weight.
I can stand and hold
It's
it.
not what's on top of it. It's that this will not lock.
I was thinking like you
I
could
can
see the
stand on
part,
a
you
chair
can
and
just
hold the light.
take a little wrap of tape around here so it can just hold it temporarily. Cause see, like right here, you,
I also want to know what's going on up here, because there's a whole nother one up here that ought to be, or have we removed that for some reason? This ought to be extending too. Let me see if we get one that works real quick. Shouldn't move at all. You know what, maybe I should just put it on a C-stand. Let's do that. Who wants to set up a C-stand? Who hasn't set up a C-stand yet?
go.
Come grab one, somebody. If you want to pick up anything, they're all good.
I'll do the next one.
Yeah.
these are all fairly next thing.
Okay, let me be sure everybody. So these are the good ones. So all you have to do on these is pull that ring up.
This is broken.
It does still take two people, so I'll hold it for you.
Just
And now pull the ring down, and now they will slide around and they will lock into where they're supposed to be. All right? Now you just let the ring back up. They're
Oh
locked.
my god, that's
Right?
so much easier than it was.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Much easier. Okay. I'm just going with a C-stand.
Yeah, I saw that.
I would like somebody at some point to tell me, do we have any light stands at work?
I haven't used lights yet, but.
Yeah. All right, good. Okay.
The newer lights work.
That shake.
But those?
Those are
Okay. Most traditional lighting setups will have the light coming from above, which is what we're going to do today. That's just a natural thing, right? Light usually comes from above. The lights in this room are coming from above. So when we're outside, the sunlight is coming from above, etc. All right, striking. Let's kill the overhead lights, please. Now, the other thing I don't have today, and I'm pissed off about because one of my students took the goddamn, I'm sorry. Yeah,
3 minutes, it'll be here.
okay. I want David to know I am pissed.
Okay.
And I think we need to cut his account. I'll tell that to Tom.
That's a Tom.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go with about that. Now, you want to go up. Oops, wrong one. Now, I'm not providing any fill light today so that we can really see what these setups are doing. but probably should have a fill light, to make these setups work. But in our first setup, the light is directly in front of the subject's face, right? The subject is literally almost looking directly at the light. Okay? This is called paramount or butterfly. It is sometimes called glamour lighting. Let's diffuse it just a minute here. Somebody open up the aperture on the camera for me.
How do I do that?
It's a ring on the lens.
Oh dear.
Maybe without moving the camera.
Which one?
The back one, the very back one.
There you go. It's doing it.
5.1.
Brighten it up.
Sorry.
Right down. Okay, that's not really having that much effect. I don't want to mess with it. Here's what defines this lighting setup. The shadow of the nose. In fact, that's what we're going to be watching this whole time, are nose shadows, believe it or not. The shadow of the nose is directly below the nose. Right? It's also giving us some pretty intense shadows on Jake's eyes. Let me actually just bring your chin up a little bit, Jake. All right? We've still got that nose shadow. We got a little more light in his eyes. It's really enhanced by the fact that we don't have any kind of fill light going on here, right? But that's the definition. Now, it's called Paramount because there were a lot of actresses at Paramount Studios in the 1930s who were lit with this. You would soften this light up extensively. You would fill in the shadows, but the whole face would be kind of evenly lit. It's high so that we do have some shadows under the chin, under the nose, sometimes under the eyes. I think Jake has some slightly deeper set eyes than, yeah. So he's a little more sinister looking under this particular setup, a little more Godfather-like. But that is our first setup. That is butterfly or paramount lighting. Okay? As we start to go around in a circle, and we bring the shadow of the nose down a little bit to the side, throwing one side, a slight bit of one side of the face into shadow. Again, the shadow's on the broad side of the face. We are lighting the short side of the face. We get into what is referred to as loop lighting. Instead of it being directly in front, we've come a little bit to the side, so we've got a little more emphasis on shadow. We have a little more emphasis on depth. Okay? So that is loop. If we keep coming around until the shadow of the nose closes in, and we have a triangle of light under the fill side of the eye, Rembrandt lighting. Okay. Now, one of the things we can do, Nathan, could you grab one of my whiteboards over there, just so you can see that we're not talking about this high contrast that we have, because it's still Rembrandt lighting, even if this other side of his face is lit, and filled in. It's still Rembrandt lighting. I'm doing it like this just so it's really, really obvious at this point. Now, this is shorthand, right? This is, I'm a director, or I'm sometimes an actor. You're talking to somebody who's going to run a camera. You say, I'd like to be in Rembrandt lighting, or I want this to be Rembrandt lighting. The thing of it is, we shoot moving subjects. So if Jake looks at me, he's no longer in Rembrandt lighting. Our figures move through these lighting setups. He just, look at me again, Jake, he just went back to loop lighting, right? If he looks at me here, even though it's a profile, he's back into butterfly lighting, right? So these aren't hard and fast things. These are just kind of a shorthand. But one of the things I think is important is to look at Jake as we go through these settings, right? And see if we feel different about him, or he has a different look about him, okay? If we keep coming, okay, you can take your position back. We keep coming around until one half of his face is lit and the other half is in shadow. This is called split lighting because we've split his face in half. One side in shadow, one side in light. Again, this is not a matter of contrast. This is a matter of where the key light is positioned, the angle of the key light to the subject. Okay. If we keep coming around, I think I can squeeze by you. That would help. If we keep coming around, then we keep going back. No, we keep coming around, and we have the key light not quite behind him, but giving him a rim, right, on that side of his face. This is then called rim lighting. Once again, we can fill the other side of the face in if we want to. Wow, that really fills it in, doesn't it? Let's bring it around a little bit, right? But that is our key light, that rim back there. The other thing you might notice, and one of the things that's always interesting, and we'll try to look at this when we have time, is not just the angle and position of the key light, but also the angle and position of the fill light. Because if my fill light is over here, make it stop showing, then Jake has this very interesting kind of dark shadow down sort of through the middle of his face. His face is now kind of trisected, right? We've got the key area, we've got a shadow area, we've got the fill area, we've got three distinct exposures on his face. Okay. All right, if we keep going until we are on the opposite side of the subject from the camera, we have what's known as backlighting. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that the light is now going down the barrel of the lens. We may like that, right? Was it Taylor's video? Yeah, Taylor had this effect in her video. But we can create a shadow, right, for the lens itself, and we now have that very serious backlighting. Would somebody take this board for me and just reflect some, just kind of go below him over here, kind of in front of him, if you will. Bounce some light back in his face, right? Okay, so that's backlighting. Okay, thank you, Zach. Now, these are all short side settings. The backlight equal, right? The butterfly effect equal. Short, 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 short. We're now going to broadside lighting. And the first thing we're going to get into is going to be our rim lighting.
When you say short and broad,
Mhm.
is that in relation to where the camera is?
No, it's only, well, yes and no. It's really in relationship to his face, right? So anytime your subject is looking off camera, right? If Jake, point your nose right at the camera. Equal, right? If Jake is looking over here at me, this side of his face is broad and this side of his face is short. So we're basically using the key light to light the far side of Jake's face instead of the side that's facing towards us when we're doing the short light. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if Jake looks at me over here, we just switched. This is now the short side and that's the broad side, right? And we would adjust accordingly. Okay. So Jake, back to your, right? So there's our rim lighting on the broad side of the face. Not terribly different, I don't think. Right? But when we start coming around here and we do split, and I'll send you guys screen captures of all this so you can take a look at it, right? And we do split lighting. We're now looking at the side of his face we're looking at more of his face being lit than we were looking before. Okay. Again, not dramatically different. It's when we get into these more frontal positions that things start to really get different. So we go from split to Rembrandt. Just watch your feet, guys. Don't get you. Okay. Now, what we're doing now is we're emphasizing the brighter side of his face and letting the shadow side of his face be minimized. There's nothing wrong with this. This is not incorrect. But I would say this is different. that this feels, yeah, let me see that a second, Zach. That this feels and looks different. There's more, I'm just going to bring it in. There's more of an emphasis on, there's less of an emphasis on shadow, right? And shadows, even if they're brightened up, shadows are what give us our most sense of depth, which is why I think, and I don't know if it's why I think everyone does short-sighted lighting. But again, there's nothing wrong with this. It's just not as common. If we keep coming, and we get into loop lighting, right, we really are sort of de-emphasizing the shadows to a certain extent. They're not playing the same kind of role that they were playing before. Right? And if I bring it around here, we're right back into butterfly or parent. So that's what we're talking about in terms of angle, right? The other thing we can consider, as I mentioned before, as we're doing this, is we can also consider, well, every time we do all of this, we're going to consider everything, right? We're considering intensity. How bright is this light? I put it up to 100 just so I could get a little depth. How bright or dark do I want it to look, right? We're dealing a little bit with contrast whenever I bring in that board and fill in the shadows a little bit, brighten the shadows, that's contrast. We're not dealing much with quality at all. This is a slightly softer light than those areas were because it's a slightly bigger light source. But as we can see, it's not extensively softer, right? But that is something you always want to consider. Then we consider, where am I putting the key light? Or where am I putting my subject in relationship to the key light? If the key light's a window, it's a matter of where you're putting your subject, right? So do I want something like this, or would I rather have something like this? Given the situation, let's plug in one more Amaran and Hollywood it. Hollywood means you just handhold something, right? I need a flag on the camera. We're just going to hold it for a minute. You need something somewhere. We don't have the time to set up a stand and all that. You're just going to hold it. And I just want to pitch one more idea, that when we're thinking about direction and angle, we're not just thinking about the key light. We can also be thinking about the fill light. We will have to plug it. Oh no, we got batteries for it? Yeah. Ooh, that's even better. Okay. So in a traditional setup, you want your fill light to be pretty near the camera, because what you're trying to do is fill in the shadows from the perspective of the camera, right? And I can crank this up and fill them in a little more. I think we're a little hot on the exposure, right? I can crank it down and make it a little less. Now the other thing, again, this is dealing with contrast. How bright is the shadow side compared to how bright is the key side? If I start moving the key light around, we start getting some different effects. Look at the shadow that's starting to form down the middle of his face. Right? Ooh, look at that. Now I got something kind of weird and interesting. The fill light just became kind of a room light. Call this a kicker. We're going to set up a kicker here in a few minutes, right? But that also has a difference. Where is my fill light coming from? Not only where is the key light coming from? Not only how bright is the fill light. Okay. Again, nothing magical about any of these setups. It's a shorthand, right? But we are seeing the face in a different we are seeing the face in a different light. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, that's intensity, that's contrast, that's quality, that's direction, and that's angle. By the way, just to mention this, when we talk about three-point lighting, right? Everything's not three-point lighting. This isn't three-point lighting. We've got one light up, right? Everything doesn't have to be three-point lighting. thing that's good about three-point lighting is it forces you to think about a lot of these things. It forces you to think about direction and angle. Where's your key light coming from in relationship to your subject? It forces you to think about contrast. If I'm setting up a fill light, how much or how little am I filling it up? Right? It makes you think about dimension and depth by having a backlight that cuts your subject off from the background, creates a line of light around them. So that's one of the things that's valuable about three-point lighting. Okay, now we're getting into color. Did we get the 300X? Or did we get the 300D? And would somebody turn on the overheads for a couple minutes here?
By the way, Professor Bowman,
Yes.
the peaking lines are on here. Is that affecting?
Yeah, it's okay. It's annoying, but it's okay. That's actually the focus. It is focus peaking, I'm sorry. I get it confused with zebra sometimes. Let's turn it off though, it's annoying.
Got the 300.
There we go. Okay.
Is that right? 300?
It's either a D or an X.
I believe D. Yeah, I'm pretty sure D.
You're sure D or you're pretty sure?
Just double check it real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's D. It's D.
Okay, all right.
It's D.
Now,
Thanks, Joe.
there should be one of these amarans. Nathan, do you know how to tell which one of these amarans have color correction?
No.
All right, this button that you turn up and down,
Yeah.
should one of them in the kit, it should click in and out.
Okay. In this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So see if one of them, it clicks in and out. You may have to take off your cute gloves.
I know.
You can tell without the batteries, they'll just physically click.
Oh, okay.
So not that one.
Not this one.
And there's supposed to be one in every kit, but guess what? There isn't it.
That's one.
That's it. Okay.
Batteries on.
Would someone work with Nathan? Batteries are good, so let's get
Multiple
that.
light meters here as well.
Oh, nice. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Tell David I'm gonna kick his ass.
Ashton gets the credit, she brought it back because it was you.
Oh, I didn't want her to do that. If she had that reserve, she should keep it. Does she need it?
It's at no, she doesn't. It's at Santiago's house. So like,
Okay, now I'm really pissed at him.
rightfully so.
You sure Ashton doesn't need it? Is she still here?
She was just gonna play around with it.
Okay, all right. I owe her one. Okay, can we get this light set up on a C-stand? Who wants to go set up another C-stand? Who hasn't done one yet?
Sure.
Should we say something about reflection glasses as well?
We said something last time.
Okay, I
It came up last time.
didn't know. If it
Here's my take on reflection in glasses. Put your glasses on.
Okay, yeah.
All right. All right. We can see a lot of reflection in his glasses right now. If I start to go up with this, right, it will take it out to a certain extent. But if he looks up or looks down, look up, it's going to come back in, right? My take on reflection is I don't care. I don't mind. It doesn't bother me unless it's obscuring the eye. If it's obscuring someone's eye. But the only thing you can really do, and we were talking about this last time, I think, is just move the light. But then you're lighting based on the reflection in the glasses and not on what you want, right? You don't want to mess up your lighting setup to get a reflection out of the glasses, to me. Some people consider it much more important, but you can see just going up or down with it will usually solve that problem to a certain extent. It does also depend on how much your subject is moving their head. Shot some video just last week with someone who was wearing glasses, and you know, we had reflections in there, but the lighting looked good, and we left them, but they weren't obscuring her eyes, and I thought personally it looked fine. I'm sorry. It's okay. All right, now we get into the big one. Now we get into color. Color is a lot. Okay. Let me see. What did I do with my marker? Anybody see what I did with my marker? Okay. Different kinds of light we can say, let me save this real quick because I don't want to threaten that. Different kinds of light are different colors. Okay? Now, the camera, and this is going to require us, oh boy, this is going to be exciting. Hold on a second.
Color.
Oh.
Where's the menu? Here's the menu. Okay, this is so. No, wrong button. Still wrong button. It's very hard to do this without being able to see. Okay. That's that button. That's not that button. It must be that button. There we go. All right. There we go. I'm sorry, guys. Give me a minute. This is very counterintuitive. All right, settings. That button. That button. It's that button. That button. It's that button. This. And it's this. That. Okay. It's that. Yes.
Here, applaud. Okay, going two things.
Yes.
Here's your light meter. That's one.
Thank you.
Second, the screw is just a bit loose. It's not going to fall off. It's already screwed on.
Okay, great.
Just want to let you know.
It
It looks loose. It's just screwed on.
Doesn't have to move much anyway. Okay, so how we measure these different colors, right? And boy, did I just put too much color on that monitor. But I'm not messing with it. Oh, it's really orange. That's going to throw everything off. Hold on. Maybe I'm used to it now, though. Hold on. That one. That one. This one. This one. That. Yes. Now let's. All right, we're going to live with it unless I have to readjust it. It's a little pinkish weird, but these are old monitors. Okay. We have a spectrum in terms of the color of light, right? We measure it in temperatures, in degrees Kelvin, right? Which is why we talk about color temperature. On one end, light ends up being very orange. And on the other end, light ends up being very blue. Okay? Somewhere in here would be an incandescent bulb. Somewhere in here would be one of those airy lights we had last week. Someone in here would be your old-fashioned, old-style desk lamp bulb, right? Which we also refer to as tungsten, because that is the metal that's inside those bulbs, or was inside those original bulbs, that heated up, and it produced this orange light. Blue over here we think of as daylight, because sunlight is very, very blue. That's why, actually, I'm getting it outside. Okay. So, in terms of looking at these temperatures, tungsten over here is going to be somewhere around 3,200 degrees Kelvin and maybe 3,600 degrees Kelvin. Orange. Over here, daylight is going to be somewhere around 5,600 degrees Kelvin or 6,000 degrees Kelvin. Fluorescent lights have a tendency, depending on their age, to be around 4,000 Okay. Now, the camera, we love the camera. Don't listen to this. The camera's kind of stupid. The camera, it's just a bunch of plastic and metal and glass. It doesn't know anything. It doesn't understand what color a light is. It tries to figure it out sometimes. It'll try, and maybe it'll get it right, but maybe it won't. We have to tell it somehow what kind of light, what color light we are using. And we tell it that with these numbers, right? So right now, and I don't know how well this is going to look, right now, if you look up there, you can see I'm at, hold on, let's turn that off. If I take this up to around 4,000 degrees Kelvin, I should be, and I am on the camera, getting a pretty good flesh tone. A little orange up here, but not bad, right? So what I'm basically doing is camera, we're shooting under fluorescent lights, and the camera is making an adjustment to turn that light, which is a little orange, turn a little bluer so that white looks like white and skin tones look like skin tones. Okay? Now there's several ways I can do this. We looked at this when we looked at this camera. I can manually set it to whatever temperature, and there are meters. I could have a meter that would read the light if I want to. All right? I can set it according to these icons. So right there is a incandescent light bulb. If I set it to that, it's going to turn the light slightly bluer because it thinks the light is more orange than it is. Does that make sense? I'm telling it it's shooting under orange light, so it's bluing it up to compensate. We can go to other symbols. There's daylight. I'm telling it we're shooting under blue light, so it's turning it a little orange to compensate. Then I have these presets, which will allow me to white balance with a card. We've done that before in lab. And then we also have auto. So right now, auto white balance is deciding that we're shooting around 3,600 degrees Kelvin. I think that's a little orange, and I think that may be why he's looking just a little bit orange. But let's crank up some lights instead. Let's kill the overheads. Striking here. Okay. Now, this light is a daylight light. The reason when we check these lights out, they have a D, like the D120s or the 120Ds or the 300Ds, is because they are daylight balanced. That means they are generating what color light? Blue light. Okay? So I have to go in here to get a proper color. I have to go in here, take it off of white auto, and take this up to around 5,600 degrees Kelvin. Okay? And again, this monitor is a little more orange, but that gives us a pretty decent flesh tone. Okay? Let's somebody turn that light on for me and point it at the shape. Okay?
I'm gonna angle it down.
Yeah, so it's hitting him. Actually, I think you just need to crank it up to like 90 or something like that. What's it on?
It's on 50.
Yeah, put it up to like 90. Let's see if we can even it out a little bit. Okay, now, good, that's perfect. Now, on the back of this light, this is one of the lights that you can actually adjust the color of the light itself. This button that makes it brighter and darker, if I push it in, it's telling me right now, let's make it even, I'm shooting at 5,600 degrees Kelvin. So these lights are about equal, right? Both sides look about the same color, right?
Yep.
But I can change this. I can make this 4,000 degrees Kelvin, right? The camera still thinks we're looking at blue light. So it's kind of, I mean, the camera still thinks we're looking at blue light, right? I can take it down to 32. See the color difference, right? I can take it down to 23 and really orange it up. But let's do this. All right, right now this light is set at 3200 degrees Kelvin, which is tungsten. And this light is set to 5600 degree Kelvin, which is daylight. Right now I'm telling the camera, I want you to adjust for daylight color. So it's making this side of Jake look normal, and it's making that side of Jake look orange. If I start changing my directions to the camera and tell it instead that we're looking at 3200 degree Kelvin light, suddenly that side of his face looks relatively normal, and this side of his face is blue. Okay? This is why sometimes you shoot footage outside and you get back home and you go, why is it all blue? Well, the camera didn't know you were shooting under blue light. It was blue light. The camera was just saying, oh, let's just make it normal, or let's make it bluer, and it got blue, right? So you got to either tell the camera what kind of color light you're shooting under, or you've got to let the camera determine it itself. Now, what will be interesting is if we go in here and do auto white balance, it's not quite sure what to do. It landed at 39, which is splitting the difference, which means one side of his face is going to be a little blue and the other side of his face is going to be a little orange. Okay. This is actually relatively simple stuff. It's just a matter of making sure the camera knows what kind of lighting you're shooting under if you want white to look like white. All right, so if we catch that light, it's got a little bit of a blue tint to it, because again, we're averaging it out. If we catch this light, sorry, Jake, there we go. It's got a little bit of an orange tint to it, right? Again, if I tell the camera that we're shooting at 3200 degrees Kelvin, it should make this light, if I can get them, look white, and it should make this light look blue. And it does. If I tell it we're shooting daylight, we're shooting blue light, we're shooting 5600 degrees Kelvin, this light should look a little more orange, and this light should look more like white. Yeah, that's something weird going on with the monitor. Look at the edges of it, and you'll see that it's white. I don't know what's going on with the monitor up there. It's kind of like, I think we're burning into the monitor a little bit when we put it up there. That's why we're getting that little blue cloud in the middle for the moment. Okay, questions. Now, this is dealing with color temperature as a corrective, right? We want to make sure white looks like white. We want to make sure that it looks like normal light. But there's something else we can do with color, right? We can use color creatively. We can use color emotionally, right? So if I've got this set at 5600 degrees Kelvin, we bring this substantially down, just so it's a little bit of a fill light. Right? That has become our key light, and that is a daylight light. And I've just told the camera we're shooting under daylight, so we're getting it relatively white over there. Orange, wait a second, I'm getting confused which side I'm looking at. No, okay, orange. Yeah, yeah, blue.
I think the monitor are more orange than they appear in real life.
Yeah, did I change the setting on this? Yeah, I did change it, I'm sorry. I thought we left this at 56. There we go, all right. All right. Now, if I want, let's bring this around a little bit. Just a little more light. Maybe on the environment as well. Oranges suggest warmth, both emotionally and physically in the environment. Oranges and warm colors, oranges, yellows, reds, they are more inviting. They suggest an environment that is more comfortable because we kind of crave warmth. So if I go in here and I start telling the camera that this is really, really blue light, I can take this camera up to 15,000 degrees Kelvin. I'm no longer correcting light. I'm using light creatively. I want the environment and Jake to look warm, to look inviting, to look comfortable, right? And there's any number of areas in here that I can put this to either exaggerate that sense, right? Now, when we get around down to 5600, it's going to look relatively normal. But if we keep going, I can blue it up to at least that extent. Right? Now, blue colors on that end of the spectrum have a tendency to make the environment feel cold and the emotions feel cold. It's not an inviting place. It's a slightly threatening environment, right? So that's the most basic color theory there is. It doesn't get any more basic than that. Okay, well, strike this one. Bring this back up. Now there's some blue light for you. So let's take the camera back to 3200 and make this light on Jake be the white light. Okay. And if we leave this, right, this is still creating a bit of a blue light. Let's turn it into more of a what we call a kicker. Okay? And then let's really play around for a moment. Did we get one of the, yes we did. These are new. We didn't used to have these. I used to have one. I used my cheap ones. So these are color effect gels. You've got two different kinds of gels you can get from checkout. You can get color correction kit. So this is corrective color. This is, my light's too blue, I want it to look orange. My light's too orange, I want it to look blue. Okay? I've got sunlight coming in a window, and it's blue. And I've got a light set up inside, and it's orange. I can make that orange light blue. I can put blue gels on front of the light. Right? So this is just for correction. This is for playing around. I think this has even been opened before.
There's some comic book shading in here.
Yes, yes, yes. Let's see what else we got.
Too green. Gray.
Yeah, this has never been opened before. Bear with me, I'm getting there.
Let's check these out when we make in capstone.
There we go. Okay.
Looks some good lighting.
Yes.
Green. Red. Dog red.
Oh, that's cool then.
somebody take this one and go hold it up in front of that light over there.
Christmas time. Christmas time.
Someone take a picture. Someone take a picture.
It's time.
Hold on.
Here, I got you.
I'm recording. Oh, actually, is the
I'll take a
camera?
picture
Did the
later.
camera stop recording?
No, it's
No, it's
Oh, it's
recording.
recording. Right.
Never mind.
Let's switch them. Let's switch them, Zach.
Hey, it's time.
How are we doing on time?
We got
got a
plenty of
while.
time. We got like
12
We got like 30
Right.
minutes.
So every color has its own sense of evocation, right? We look at greens, particularly certain shades of green, and we have a tendency to think, that's a little sickly, that's kind of like rot, that's kind of like, right? There's some brighter greens that feel more like life or Christmas, or, you know, which is exactly, you know, or leaves budding, or, you know, springtime, right? Red is the color we respond strongest to. Red is something that immediately grasps our attention, and it does have a tendency to put us slightly on alert. Because red's the color of blood, and blood means something. Right? Blood means I've either gotten my food or I am food. Right? Just out of curiosity, what else do we have in this?
Unless you're in the casino world, your blood is green. It's acid.
As well as saying goes, we always meet the same goals, right?
No one can hear you scream in space.
Right? Now, there's two ways to think about this in terms of color. In fact, there's two ways to think about lighting in general. One is motivated, right? If I'm going to throw a big red light on Jake, in the context of whatever story or whatever situation I'm in, what is the justification for that red light? Why is there a red light there? Is there a traffic light outside the window? Are they having a party and they've put a red bandana over a bare light bulb? Is there a neon light outside that's red or green or whatever color, right? The other way is just to make it expressionist. You just go, I don't care. I think it looks cool. I'm making a horror movie, and all these ballet students are getting killed in this ballet school, and I want some red light on this, by God. Yeah, there you go. It's a spirit. Thank you very much. Right? So you can look at that even two ways. Think about scenes in movies that you've seen shot in caves. Was just watching the TV show From last week, and they're crawling around through a bunch of caves. And there's light in there. If I didn't have any light, I couldn't see them, right? Where's that light coming from? Where's the light come from in a cave? There's no light in a cave. Right?
Unless if it's like, you know, man-made buildings.
Yeah, or unless they're carrying a light, or you've got it. That would be a motivated light. When you just see people stumbling around in a cave and there's just a little bit of light so you can see them, that's cheating in a way, right?
Right.
But that's more expressionist. That's unmotivated light. Either is perfectly valid, right? It's just a matter of the effect that you're trying to give. Okay. Now, what I want to do. How are we on time? All right. We're going to roll shape into our next consideration. What we're going to do is actually set up with Jake a lighting scenario. And to do that, we need to turn on the overheads. Somebody can help me with that. We need to save these lights because we're going to use different lights. We're going to get out, first of all, the 300 Aperture 300D. And I want to bring it out here and put it right in the middle of the floor. I want to show people how we figure this out. So, these LED lights, which by the way don't get hot, I mean it's warm, but it's not going to burn you, it's not going to hurt you, right? Are a kind of a slightly softer light because it's a larger source, right? Like a 12 by 12 source or 12 by 10 source. The advantage of these aperture lights is that they are hard lights. They are small source lights. You can make hard light soft. You can't make soft light hard. So it's always great to have a hard light because it's a little more useful. Okay, bring the whole kit out here into the middle of the floor. Somebody mind taking this over and just laying it with the case? All right. Now, if you checked these lights out and you didn't know anything about them, you would want to do some research, right? Yeah, we can take that one down too. Thank you, babe. Okay? But one of the things you want to do, and boy, I can already tell. I know there's stuff up here. Okay. You want to look at a kit and you want to try to just think your way through it. Okay? I can look at this kit and I can tell this is the light. It's the biggest thing in here. It's got to be the light. Okay, we'll set that down. I can pull this out and I can look at it and I can see a power button, brightness buttons, controls. This is a control box. This is something that's going to control the light. Okay? Now, if I know anything about lights, what I'm going to know is this is going to have to plug into a power source. And then this is going to have to plug into that. All right? So I can look in here and I can go, okay, here's a cable that has a plug that I recognize. I can plug that into a power source. What else do I have? Let's see, what is this? Okay, there's another one. I can plug that into a power source. I've got this. That's like 5 pins in and out on each end. That's not going to get me to a power source because my power source is over here. So now I want to look at my control box. What kind of... Got something up here that says output. Well, I want the power to come out of this and go into the light, so I'm not worried about that yet. When I look at the bottom here, I have something that says DMX in and DMX out. I don't know what that is, so I'm going to ignore that. But I see something right here that looks a lot like this. So I'm going to try that. Oh, look, it fits and it clicks. Okay? I look like maybe I'm starting to get in business. Okay? Now, I know that I've got to go out of this box and into that light. And I know that I found an output. So I'm looking for a cable that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pins. I just saw one with 5 pins. That's convenient. So let's see. That'll go right there. Now, the other end of this cable is also 5 pins. I'm looking for 5 pins on the light. Do I have it? How about that? Yay! I think once I plug that into power, I may, I don't know for sure, if I haven't done my research, I may be in business. All right? Now, let me unplug this for a second. This has a yoke, allows you to tilt the camera, right? Makes sense. Want to loosen that up, so when you loosen something up, you tighten it back up. Law number 2! Okay. I like to say that loudly. Okay, let me plug this back in. Okay. The yoke has a connection. Still proud. Every time I can do that, I'm still proud. Okay. Looks like it'll go right on the light. Let's make sure it's all the way down. Appears that it is. So we've now got this on a stand. Okay. Now, they've provided this thing. What is this? What is this? Ooh, it gets, oh, wait a second. Wait a second. Wait a second. Could it be? It's got the aperture word on it, so I know it goes like this, and it looks to me like. It can't be. There's no way.
That's one of the control boxes.
Will it? Now, I don't know what to do with that, but it's there. But I look at the box. Wait a second. Oh ho ho! It's got a connection over here that looks awful lot like that. Need to hear a click. Always a click. It's supposed to be a click. There's no click. No, that should do it. Why did you guys not do this? All right, I had to tighten it. It should just click right in, but I had to actually tighten it. Okay, that's nice. The control box is somewhere near where I can control. Do me a favor, wipe this in.
This doesn't turn on immediately.
When you need to find out.
Time being, I'm just going to point at the ceiling. All right. Now, one of the things to look at is to look at the light source itself, right? See how, unlike a lot of older LEDs, that yellow area is the entire light source. Okay? So it's pretty small, so it's going to be a pretty hard light. Now, this should have had a cap that was on it, because we want to protect that. So there's a cap here. Clicks in. You do not want to turn the light on with the cap on, because it doesn't get too hot, but it'll get hot with that cap on, and it'll melt that cap, and it'll start smoking, and then the fire sprinklers go off, and then boy, you're in trouble, and then I'm in trouble. So we aren't going to do that, right? Okay, all right. There's a little button on the top here. And again, if you can't see what I'm doing, then you're probably in the wrong place. There's a little button on the top here. If you pull back, you can spin this and you can pop it out. Okay? Now what's convenient about that is a Bowens mount.
Convenient.
It's a universal kind of mount. Lots of camera of light manufacturers use it. I can take this bowl, this reflector, and I can pop it in and twist it and click it and it's on. That bowl will add more than a stop of light. It amplifies the light by more than a stop. So if you're in a situation where you need more of the light than this light will output, that bowl is what will do it. Do we have barn doors for the 120s, Nathan? Yeah. Because there's no barn doors in here.
Sure. Yeah, there is.
Okay. So once we put that bowl on, and we mentioned the fact that barn doors connect in lots of different ways. So this is different. See this? Right? This metal, whatever, I don't know what to call it, this piece of metal, it'll latch right into there. Okay? If I put this barn door over this bowl, and there's some little connections here I need to make sure are on. Okay.
Could you put them on before putting them on the light, or does it
Sure
have
could.
to be like?
I could do it. You could do it either way. You could absolutely do it either way, and maybe the other way would have been smarter. So you can see there are little clips here. You have to get under those. A little hard to do with that piece of metal on the way, but here we go. There we go. So we're under those two. And when we bring this piece of metal down and clamp it into there, barn doors are now on it. We can Bowens mount it right back in, and now we've got barn doors. Okay? That's pretty much everything that was in this kit. We've got this, which is a power cable for a battery charger that's not in here. But then again, not terribly useful since there are also no batteries in here. One of the things I just asked the faculty to do, and I don't know if they did this for me or not, was to make sure we had, with our next purchase, which is coming up, had proper batteries and chargers for every one of these lights, because there are battery connections on both sides of this light. With two batteries that are charged, I can run this off battery power, which means I can go out and turn this on and light up a field at night without having to worry about where to plug in power. Okay? The only other thing in there is this little scrim, which we know just cuts down the amount of light a little bit, right? You standing by to turn the overheads off?
Am I?
With your big ears?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, turn the overheads off for me. All right. Striking. So there's a power button right here.
Oh, Lordy Lou.
Now, this is at 80%. That is 100.
With the blinds.
Jake's nicely lit, and there's no light actually hitting him at all. It's all coming off of the ceiling at this point. Right? It's nice Rembrandt lighting, actually. You kind of worked that out pretty well. Okay. Now, you will notice that the light looks blue. This is a 300D. D stands for daylight. We've got 120Ds over there. Do you think the 120s are brighter than this or not as bright as this?
Not as bright.
Yeah, because it's a lower number. Nice. Okay. I don't know if that number really means much of anything, but that's what it is. So I know this is a daylight light. I know this is blue. So if I want this to look normal, in terms of color temperature, I have to go in here and crank this up to 5600. Okay. Well, we've got a little bit more normal skin tones going on. Okay. This is going to be our key light. We're actually going to point it at Jake. Watch out, buddy. Here it comes. Okay.
Okay.
All right. We're going to take it up. We've got some nice Rembrandt lighting going right now. So we're going to lock it down with that. And since I now have a light meter, Wes Ashton's heart. Looks like I should be at an 8, F8 or T8. So that should be proper exposure. Looks pretty good. Okay. That's going to be our key light. I want to set up a fill light. And let's why don't we just go ahead and use one of the, somebody bring an Amaran over and let's set an Amaran up over here near where over here near where Zach was sitting. Do we have another stand to put that on?
There's another C-stand.
Actually, we could probably, we don't have to go up with this, so we could use one of the light stands. Where are the light stands? Where are they go? They all go back? Yeah, grab this light stand. Yeah, but it'll work if we don't have to go up with it, because what we want to do is fill in the shadows. Although I am going to move it before this is all over with. But yeah, we can go ahead and just put it right there and just leave it like that. Oh, is this the one that, no, that's good. There you go. We're not putting sandbags on stuff, but, and we should be, but we should put sandbags on everything. Let's get sandbags on the wrong thing. Hold on, right here it is.
Should we turn
No, the big leg should be towards the subject, so that should be right.
Okay, that's correct. Can you put it on the opposite one?
striking, by the way?
Yeah, you can put on any, either, sorry, thank you. You can put on either of the back ones. All right, I'm going to take this down to 10 for now, while we're playing around. And let's see what kind of contrast ratio we're looking at. That's a 3.2. So from 3.2 to 8, I'm going to say it's about 4 stops, I think, something like that, if my math is anywhere near correct. Okay. I'm going to hold off. Am I going to hold off? No, I'm not going to hold off. I want to set up, let's set up, somebody else come down here and set up a 120D. It's exactly the same setup as this. Somebody get with Nathan and let's get a 120D set up, and we can get set up on that C-stand.
We got 7 minutes.
7 minutes, that's it? We're not going to get very far, right?
You want width for now?
I'm wondering if we even have time to set it up. We don't, if we've only got 7 minutes left. All right, we're going to pick up right here with this exact setup, and we're going to keep building it out, and we're eventually going to build it out to a low-key setup and to a high-key setup, but we'll have to start that next week.